They're going to get $1 million worth of game, yes?
That's right. So let's give a big round of applause to Aaron Novello.
Thank you, Gabriella. When we put it in the Wall Street Journal,
Don't wanna hear about it. Every single one's got a story to tell. Everyone knows about it. From the Queen of England to the Hounds
my
of
cousin
Hell.
said that the marketplace is
And if I catch it coming back my way, I'm gonna serve it to you.
Anybody besides me have heard this before from a seller? Yes or yes?
And that ain't
Yes or
what
yes?
you want to hear, but that's
And it's
what
almost as
I'll
though
do.
we're going to a class on how to object.
And the feeling coming from my
Because we're all
bones
thinking,
says find a home.
even I so that when I put it that's going to get the market also going to do that too. Because there is in accepting the offer that the asking price of all the there's no skill involved. So that's one. Yeah? And in the marketplace, it's dramatic. Okay? Wild. Prices are going down 20, 30%. Inventory is exploded, if you can believe it or not. There were 20,000 homes, single-family residential homes on the market in South Florida, in Broward County, alone. Okay? So I realized very quickly I needed to learn some new skills. Otherwise, I would have to have a new script, which is, would you like fries with that, ma'am? Yes? Do you know how many agents right now I'm talking to that are having to get jobs driving Uber? Why? The marketplace has changed, yes? And they lack the skills required to make money in the marketplace, yeah? Because unlike everything you hear, selling real estate isn't HGTV. So I realized, hey, I have to learn these skills. Otherwise, this is going to be a problem. So I did what I always do when I don't know a skill, is I seek out a guide. Somebody who's believable. Believable meaning they've produced the outcome I wish to produce consistently over an extended period of time. I started to role play twice a day, 6 days a week. That's how committed I was to that skill. I started to record myself speaking to people and sending it to a coach for feedback. Yeah? You want to see something really funny? Record yourself the next price reduction conversation you have. Sit down with your significant other with a glass of wine and be like, this is going to be interesting. Okay? It's going to be entertaining. I started to hand write out scripts every day, chant them out loud. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money with coaches, guides, seminars, reading books on psychology, on asking questions. And what that allowed me to do in one of the most challenging marketplaces from 2007 to 2012, yeah? I went from 17 transactions to 50 to 75 to 89 to 100. And then ended up doing 100 a year for 10 years in a row and did 200 deals a year twice. Yes? That's where you can clap. Yeah, you can clap now. So, and I believe that everybody in this room, okay, with the right skills, the right mental maps, the right approach, you can do anything I have done, if not more, because I know this to be true. We are in a very interesting market right now. Something happened this week, which I'm going to share with you, which is going to affect our industry specifically. I'm also aware we're in a marketplace that's kind of bipolar. What I mean by that, no disrespect to anybody who has that, but what I mean by that is that if a property is in a great location with great schools and it's nice, what happens? Flies off the shelf. Everything else does not. And you're having to have that price reduction conversation. Yes? Because they say, Shelly, what's going on? When we hired us, you told us, yes? So we have to really equip ourselves with these skills. Otherwise, it's going to be very challenging moving forward. So I've spent the last 17 years of my career. I sold over 2,000 properties, 80% of that business being listings sold. I started a coaching company that was recently named by Housing Wire top 25 coaching companies for agents that want to learn what to say and how to say it in 2025. I used to own part of an office here locally in Plantation. I sold it back 3 years ago, and since then we've attracted 440 agents in 16 states. Okay? So what we're going to do for our time that we have together, and for those that are watching on YouTube, what's up, team, is I'm going to go over with you the following. Number one, what just happened, which some of you may know about, most of you don't, that's going to have an effect on our industry and doing business moving forward. And with a high degree of probability will mean rates will stay higher for longer than we'd like. Then the second thing we're going to go over is the actual skills that you need to deal with it. Yes? Because we have two paths to take. One path is we stick our head in the sand and we hope and wish and pray that rates come down dramatically and my life gets easier and I don't have to have skills to sell real estate. Yes? Secretly in your hearts, a lot of you really want that to happen. The second path is you assess reality and you deal with it. Yeah? And it's your ability to be able to see what's true and deal with it, which is directly correlated with the outcomes that you want, right? If you're taking notes, write this down. The amount of progress that a man or woman experiences is directly correlated to the amount of truth that they can withstand. The amount of progress that a man or woman experiences is directly correlated to the amount of truth that they can withstand. Why do we have such a hard time with truth, guys? Sorry? It's ugly? What else? Why do we have such a hard time with truth? This is the interactive part. Why do we have such a hard time with truth?
It hurts.
It hurts. Why does it hurt? Because I have to admit, I'm not as fast as I think I was, as cool as I think I was, as smart as I think I was, as good of an agent as I think I was, yes? Mm-hmm. Because those stupid little pieces of plastic and paper that you get doesn't make you a great agent.
And because it normally requires change.
And it requires that you change. That's exactly right. And we resist that, don't we? Yeah. So we're going to spend time together for the time that we have, 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to go over with you specifically what just happened, that it will affect our industry, and I'll go over the exact skills that you need moving forward to do more deals in 2025. Who's up for this? Say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. So high energy equals high income. Yes? Have you ever seen anybody who makes a ton of money that shows up like this? Hey guys, what we're going to be talking, no, that never happens. High energy equals high income. So I'm going to ask you again, because the energy that you bring to this information is the energy that you're going to bring back to the information when you're revisiting it, when you're back in your office and you're looking at your notes, right? And I want you to have the level of energy that is reflective of the fact that this conversation that we're about to have could be the difference between you being a real estate agent for the next 2 to 3 years or not. Everybody clear on how important this skill is? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So who's up for learning the skills required to do more deals in 2025? Say aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, we're on the right track. Now, try to maintain that level of energy as we continue. So, let's move through this. Okay, I told you that. All right. So here's the thing that just happened. Okay? For the first time in 100 years, okay, an entire generation, the credit of the United States was downgraded. Did you know that? No, that's interesting. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yes. Did you know that? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, maybe not. Okay. Why is that important? Let me ask you a question. If somebody has a lower credit rating, let's look at an individual, yeah? And you deal with what? I see. So what happens when my credit rating goes down? The amount of interest I have to pay goes what? Ah. So how does this work out in the economic world? Good. Gabriella's even paying attention. She's like, what? So here's how this works. I could see it on your face. She was like, huh? So here's how this works. Yeah, I pay attention to everything, okay? So if you think about our credit rating, it just got downgraded from AAA to AA like 1. So that means if we want to borrow money as a country, what does that do to our interest rate? We have to compensate investors for more risk. Yes? So that means bonds go up. How does that affect our industry? Ooh, this is good. You guys are getting an economics lesson. Okay, not directly, but it affects the 10-year treasury note, which the 10-year treasury note is what dictates mortgage rates. Wow, you could go through a lot of formal education and have no idea the way the economic system works. So what are the ramifications for us? What does that mean? What can we, with a high degree of probability, what can we assume moving forward? I'm sorry? Say it louder.
Higher interest rates for a longer time.
Let me ask you a question. Are your skills right now equipped for higher interest rates for a longer time? Shelly's like, no, and she's a great agent. Yes? Is my business model, the way I'm running my business right now, equipped for higher rates for longer? Do I have the skill set of being able to present offers that come in way less than the asking price? Look at Shelly. Look at the way her physical body's manifesting. She's going like this. Ah! Yes? Do I have the skill set of being able to get adjustments when the home's not selling? Am I pre-qualifying at a really high level to be able to find people? Do I know what questions to ask to make sure their motivation is high enough? Because motivation fixes what? Price. See that light bulb go off? Bing! Motivation fixes price. If you think this is not going to affect our industry, you're being delusional. 100%. It will. So we need to equip ourselves with the skills. Everybody in agreement? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so this is what's happening. Here's a 30-year, here's treasury notes, right? Here's fixed mortgage rates. I want you to see something. The last time, which was in the 2000s, rates were this high. They stayed that high for almost a decade. Yes? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. We're only 3 years into this thing, baby. Ooh-wee. Again, am I mentally, physically, spiritually prepared for an extended period of time of rates being high? Do I have lead sources that have a higher density of motivated, super motivated, qualified people? Or am I imagining that if I post pictures of my dog on Instagram, I'll find them? Or you working out doing tricep extensions? Yeah. See? Okay. So what skills are actually required? Well, the first is the ability to set appointments. We were just speaking, right? And you were kind enough to share you've had success in a different marketplace. Came down here. We're like, hey, I'll just utilize the same plan. And what are you noticing?
Different.
It's different. And the ability to set appointments is different.
It can be done, but it just has to be.
That's right. It has to be done differently. And this is why it's so important to get proximity to a guide who can equip you with what you need to do, because he's somebody that is smart, hardworking, and ambitious. He's not afraid to work. He's not afraid to prospect. But he's utilizing an approach where he's banging his head against the wall. Yes? And anybody besides me ever bang their head against the wall and get discouraged? Yeah. It's very easy to get discouraged. And then you know what we do? Well, it's not fair, and maybe this isn't for me, and maybe I should do something else. When the real truth is, what I shared with him is, instead of he's here, a guide pulls up next to you and goes like this, hey, do this. Yeah? Just adjust your approach a little bit. Go to different lead sources, but the ability to be able to set appointments. 2, the ability to be able to pre-qualify those appointments. What do I mean by pre-qualification? What do you think I mean by that?
Pre-qualify the listing or the buyer?
Either one. What do you think I mean by pre-qualify?
Well, you find out how motivated they are.
How do you do that?
Why they're buying or selling.
Okay. And what would be some questions you could ask them specifically? Ooh-wee. You mean they didn't teach you this on that test where you had to get a 75 and have $1,000 and not be a felon? Let me ask you a question. Do you think that's part of the reason the attrition rate in our business is 76% year one? 1,000,000%. You think it's any reason why it's 80% by year 5? Everybody's gone despite your little stupid picture online with a key. Yes? Questions like, hey, my job's to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. Your home's lovely. It's in a great geographic area. I don't need to tell you that. If you don't mind me asking, was there any particular reason you were even consider selling? That's a question around what? which stands for motive to take action, a reason for doing something. If somebody tells you, hey, I just want to get a bigger backyard for my dog, this is not the market for them. But you know what will happen if you don't know that? You will spend 6 months with them. Yes? How many people besides me have ever done that? Yeah, spend 6 months with somebody who's super, all your hands should be up. 6 months with somebody who's super unmotivated, yeah? And you keep telling yourself this story. Well, I really think, you know, just if I make this unicorn happen, if I find Bigfoot for them, yes? Questions like, hey, is it an option for you to not sell this home and still move? Do you need to know that? Is it better to know that up front instead of when you're sitting in their living room and you pumped yourself up for the drive over there? I'm a great salesperson. I'm a great salesperson. I'm going to take this listing. And then you sit down and they're like, yeah, we don't have to sell. Wouldn't it be better to know that up front? Hey, is it an option for you to rent the property and still move? What would happen on the outside chance if we were still sitting here 6 months from now and it wasn't sold? What would that mean for you and your family? Do you need to know all of this? I'm telling you, if you don't refine that skill, in a marketplace where you go from 6.5 million to 4 million transactions, you will spend more time with people that aren't motivated and do less deals. Those are called the facts. It's the way it is. Yes? Second skill, the actual listing presentation. If there are less listing opportunities available, which we would agree there's less, yeah? Is it a realistic expectation that I could not practice that every day and get my unfair share? Is that realistic? No. Let me ask everybody on the, like right here, and anybody watching, okay? Who here practices their listing presentation every day? Raise your hand. That's crazy. That means all the rest of you are independently wealthy. Do you see what we're doing? We're in an environment that's hyper competitive. Because by the way, what does second place get you on a listing presentation? You know what it gets you? You know what? Hey, we appreciate you coming out, brother. You know what? We really enjoyed our time together, and you were our second choice. So if it doesn't work out, we'll give you a call. Anybody besides me want to grab their hand and just slam it against the table? Yeah?
Maybe you can bring us a buyer.
Maybe you can bring us a buyer.
Yeah.
Hey, and thanks for the little gift basket you brought me for the listing presentation and the cookies. It's immature, guys. So to walk through imagining that you don't have to role play and practice that every day, it's a delusion. The last one, handling objections and closing. Yes? How many of you guys, when you go on presentations, somebody says we want to think about it, you say, okie dokie, and you leave? Raise your hand. Come on, guys, be honest. All you guys should be raising your hand. I know you guys do this. Why? Oh, I don't want to be pushy. They might get mad at me. Hey, by the way, let me ask you a question. You're going to be negotiating about their price without you present, yes? If you hired somebody for the biggest asset that you own, would you want them to have the intestinal fortitude to be able to ask difficult questions and help people make decisions? Yes. So by me not asking questions to help them to make difficult decisions, what am I demonstrating?
That you're weak, so.
I don't have the skill. Yeah? So being able to handle all of these objections, I want to wait. What's going to happen in the marketplace? My sister's a real estate agent. I've never heard of your company before. Where's your office? Your commission's too high. Yeah? Most of you guys, when you hear that, you're like, don't say that. I'm worth it. That's silly. Or you just very quickly do what? In the absence of value, the only thing to compete on is price. Yes? Okay. And even if you just do this all right, okay? So look, real estate is it's unforgiving. At the same time, if you follow a process, you increase the probability that you'll get the outcome that you want. Yes? And how often do we follow the process, guys? Every time without exception. I don't care if my grandma calls me up and says, hey, Aaron, I want to sell my house. Great. Just have a couple real quick questions, Nanny, just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I can provide you with the most accurate information, be the best assistance to you. I will be brief because I know your time is valuable. We're going to follow the process every single time. Do you want your surgeon to follow the process every single time? Or do you want him to wing it? Do you want him to come in one day and be like, you know what? I know Shelly. I don't feel like following the procedure. You're like, that's comical. I would get up off the table and leave, yes? Or a pilot, when you get on the plane, they come over the intercom. They're like, you know what? We have this process that we follow. It's a sunny day out. I'm feeling good. I'm not going to follow it. Would you be cool with that? No. So why do we do it? Why do we do that? Right? You can do all of this right. You can set the appointment, pre-qualify, do a good listing presentation, handle objections and close. But if you don't know how to price property properly, it won't sell. Despite your buyers in Venezuela. Hey, just as a newsflash, everybody look at me. We all use the same photographers. Yes? Their property gets distributed on the same websites. Yes? So what's the actual skill that causes it to sell? I'm sorry?
Price.
How often? Every time. Number one, number two, and number three. You know how I know in your hearts you guys don't actually believe that this is true? Because you will call me and say, Aaron, is there anything else I could be doing? Should I get the Facebook ad? Should I agree to do open houses every single week so I have no life? And bring cookies? Price number one, price number two, price number three. And I'm telling you, because of what I just showed you, you're already experiencing it, yes? How many listings do you currently have, Shelly?
3.
And how many need price reductions?
3.
Ta-da! These are called the facts. Do you guys notice the energy in the room? You're like, can't you give me some motivation? Yeah? But you need, bro, you need truth to be able to deal with the marketplace. Okay? So knowing how to price property is a license to print money. Write that down. Knowing how to price property is a license to print money.
Not to interrupt.
Yeah.
But a lot of the listings that I haven't got is because I've been honest about the price. And another agent comes in and like, oh, I can do it for 60,000 more.
Yeah, that's good. So here's what we can discuss then, because I know with a high degree of certainty why that's happening is approach. You're telling. You're coming from a place of authority. I know and you don't. Right? And that was built for a different world. So there was a world once where nobody had any information about real estate. Nobody. There's no way you could know what your neighbor sold for, what homes were on the market for sale. Who did you have to talk to? Period. So then presenting with authority made sense. Yes? As an industry, we're immature in that we're still presenting with authority when now everybody has access to data. Do you know that your sellers look at their home? They know more about your home than you do. How often? 65% of Americans have all their net worth tied up into their house. Do you know how often they're refreshing to see what it's worth? Every day. And you're walking in like, whoa, I got a 75 on a test. I had $1,000 and I'm not a felon yet. And I'm an expert. That's comical, yes? So instead, from an approach perspective, is you ask questions to help them to self-discover. Yes? And we'll go over that. So that's a great question. So skills for pricing property. Yeah, when times get tough, only the skill get paid, right? So let's do this. The pricing portion, listing presentation, and price reduction. So the pricing portion of listing presentation, I have videos that are online that show you the whole listing presentation. I give you the exact presentation that I use to list over 100 homes a year for 10 years in a row. Okay? We're just going to zoom in on the pricing portion. Okay? And it'll speak directly to your question. So once we get to the pricing portion, the good news is we really only have to focus on a couple things today during our time together. The first is your motivation to sell, which is clear. The second issue is the price. Now, I prepared for you what we call a competitive market analysis, the purpose of which is really an attempt to make a very educated guess with regards to value. Notice choice of language. What did I just say? Why is that important? Yes? An educated guess. It's not, I believe, I think, yeah? Because I know what's happening, and I can say this with love. Shelly's going in because she has a background as an appraiser. She's saying, I believe, I think, I can get you. And then she's backing herself into a corner when it doesn't happen. That's what's happening. Okay? So an educated guess with regards to value, right? And it's comprised of two types of research. The first type is what's active on the market and not selling. And that's incredibly helpful to us. Do you know why? Well, yeah, so the neighbors have done us an enormous favor. They've tested the market at certain prices, and it is not working. That's useful data. We can learn from that. The second piece of data we'll look at is what is actually sold and closed most recently. And why that's so valuable is because ultimately what something's worth, I don't need to tell you, is what somebody's willing to pay for it, right? So in looking at that data, we can see what homes that are similar to yours have actually sold for, what a buyer and a seller have agreed to. And from those two pieces of information, what will come to the surface is not a pinpoint to the penny. What? What are you doing? Pinpoint to the penny with decimal points. Yeah? It's not a pinpoint to the penny in terms of price. Instead, it's a tight, realistic, what? Range. In terms of what's reasonable. And then from there, it will come down to strategy. Because how we price a property is a strategy and attempt to get the most. So we'll go over the strategies that you have because I want you to feel comfortable with the one you end up choosing. Whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. So look at those two approaches. One's, here it is to the penny, da-da-da. And I'm like, hey, educated guess, not a pinpoint to the penny. We'll look at this information. We'll see this realistic range emerge. We'll discuss strategy. Who are you probably going to go with? Do you see? Now, the purpose of the competitive market analysis, it's really an attempt to make an educated guess, as I mentioned. Are you familiar with the way buyers determine value? What do? Pontificate as to how buyers determine value, yes? But you know what? You will never argue with your own information. Do you know whose you will argue with? Everybody else's. Yes? So if you're in there telling, I'm creating an environment where they're going to argue with me. And by the way, if most people have almost all of their net worth tied up into their house, how aggressive are they in protecting it? Aggressively. And when you present with authority, do you know what it creates? Adversarial. And they're like, you know what they end up saying to you? Hey, man, you don't care what I sell for. You just want to sell it for a low price so you can get a commission. Yes? So are you familiar with the way buyers determine value? No matter what they say, essentially, they're going to comparison shop. They're going to look at what's active on the market right now and not selling. Then they're going to look at what's sold and closed most recently. And from all that information, they're going to make a determination as to where they feel comfortable making you an offer.
I see most people saying, oh, Zestimate.
Yeah, which I appreciate. And you know what's really interesting about the Zestimate is if you dig in and you see their definition of a Zestimate, they tell you, based on geographic area, they can be plus or minus a certain amount. And I don't know if you know this in Broward, it's plus or minus like 5 to 7%. So when they say it's worth 700, they're saying it could be worth 740, or they're saying it could be worth 660. And that's an enormous spread.
They don't know the condition of the house either.
Right, and they also don't know the condition of the house. So it's definitely a good starting point. At the same time, as we review this information, I believe very clearly, the marketplace will show us. Who? What are we doing? Yes? The marketplace will show us that range emerge, and then we'll discuss strategy. And then again, whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. By the way, how attached am I to this outcome? How attached are you? Very. Because you know what Shelley said, and I appreciate her authenticity, and it's true for all of us. She wants to be right. Let me ask everybody in this question. Let me ask everybody in this room a question. Would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? You don't act like it. Yeah? You will stop. I showed them, huh? And then you go on MLS and it's sold for what you showed. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, and somebody else got paid. Ta-da! Good for you. Right? So, we'll see that realistic range emerge. Oh, so from that information, the buyers will make a determination as to where they feel comfortable making you an offer. Does that make sense? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Great. So as we review this information, I find that it's very, very helpful as a homeowner to really do your best to look at this through the eyes of the buyer. Watch what I'm about to do. This is how you teach adults. Because I know that the buyer's hat is different than the seller's hat. You do what all of them do when I say that. Because this is how you teach adults. You knew what I was saying, yeah? And you know what you did? You nodded your head. Yeah, that's true. They will all do that when you do this. I promise you. Okay? So, because the buyer's hat different than the seller's hat. So again, the question to be asking yourself as we review this information is if you were a buyer and you were going to buy this home all over again, having seen what's active on the market and not selling, seen what's sold and closed most recently, the question to be asking yourself is where would you feel comfortable making an offer that you believe would be reflective of fair market value? Because more likely not, a buyer would feel pretty similar to you. Does that make sense? What is happening there? What are we doing? What are we combating?
Unfair.
Huh?
Unfair.
Okay, so I'm using the word fair because do we have an enormous idea of fairness in the United States? Oh yeah. If it's not fair, somebody's got to go to jail. Right? I think we all knew collectively that like rich people do things to get their kids into college. Yeah? Everybody knew that. But once we really knew it, what happened? People had to go to jail. It's not fair. Yes? So when I say to him, reflective of fair market value, what does that trigger in his mind? I have to be? What else are we combating? Okay, but there's a very specific one.
Well, you're not in there. It's between them and the buyers.
Correct. So I'm extracting myself. Yeah? The other thing I'm doing is I'm combating a psychological thing called the endowment effect. So George Carlin had this funny thing. He's a great comedian back in the day. He said, you ever notice that my stuff is stuff and your stuff is crap? Yeah? That's a psychological quirk that we have in thinking. Okay? And it's called the endowment effect, which is, they've done quantifiable, measurable studies. Like if I touch a product and I hold it in my hand, like a cup, coffee cup for a minute, I will pay more for that coffee cup than I would something I didn't touch. Why? Because I feel like it's mine. And whatever's mine is better because we're all very prideful. Yes? So what could have more kind of emotion infused in it in terms of the endowment effect than the home that we physically live in? Yes? So look at those two things together. 65% of people have the majority of their net worth tied up into their house, right? Plus my stuff is stuff and your stuff is crap. So when I say to you, I'm aware that the buyer's hat is different than the seller's hat, whose perspective am I putting you in now? Ah, how is that different? You guys ever shop with buyers? What are they saying? What do they say? What are these people thinking? It's outrageous. Yeah, you know what they'll say to you as a seller if you ever have people buy and sell or sell and buy? They're like, oh yeah, I replaced the doorknobs. That's got to be worth like 50,000 bucks. Yes? Oh my God, ducks come to the backyard, we feed them. It's got to be worth 20 grand. Yeah? And then what do they say when you're shopping? These people are crazy. These prices are outrageous. What you're witnessing right in front of your eyes is the endowment effect. You just didn't have language to express what you were seeing. So what we're doing here very intentionally, very skillfully, is we're combating the endowment effect. I'm taking you out of the frame. Imagine somebody had glasses on. They have seller glasses on. I take the seller glasses off, put the buyer glasses on. Because that will cause them to look at the information what? And more accurately. Yes? Because we don't perceive reality. We perceive reality through filters. And if the filter is my stuff is stuff and your stuff is junk, right? And if the filter is I need as much money from this, how am I going to see the data? Yeah? Anybody have anybody say to you before, hey, I don't care what the comps say?
Never.
Never. That never happens. Yes? That's what you're seeing. It's their filter. So I have to combat it. So are you beginning to see why you're having an issue with price? Because you're going in and saying, well, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you'll list with me at a price that'll cause it to sell. Guys, that exists for a world that doesn't exist anymore. You see that? What they want is consultative. They want somebody who can take all this data and make sense of it and guide them through a process and help them to make a decision, not authoritatively telling them what to do. Are you beginning to get clear as to what was happening there?
Yeah, kind of aware.
Yeah, with that friction. So then we get into the actual pricing portion of the conversation, right? We start looking at what's active on the market, not saying sold and closed most recently. How many of you guys are presenting with pieces of paper? Printouts from the multiple listing service? Yeah. Yeah. Just so you know, this is the year 2025. Are you taking a horse there? How do all you guys consume content? Screens. Yes?
I still read books.
Okay. I read books too. But where do you get most of your content from?
Most of it is
Screens.
screen.
So why am I presenting with paper?
Yeah.
Yes? So what I would do is I would have an iPad. They're not that expensive, guys. You can get like it doesn't have to be the iPad Pro, just get an iPad. So you can present because okay. If you had a kid who was capable, right, intellectually capable, and they have a teacher where they're just like not getting the information, and the kids like really, you could see they're trying and like whatever. And again, they're capable cognitively. Who would you blame, the kid or the teacher? Teacher. And you would tell them, hey, you need to change up your approach, do something different. Yes? So who's the teacher in this scenario? You or the seller? So why are you using outdated materials? Because it's uncomfortable and I don't want to use a web tie. I don't know. Yes? But that's foolish. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah? And by the way, sheets of paper are one-dimensional. It's very easy for them to say, oh, my kitchen's nicer than that. My bathroom's nicer than that. Very difficult when they have an iPad and they go like this. How many people besides me have ever, with a physical picture, gone like this to it? Yeah? Anybody? Is that crazy? That means my mental map of the world has changed. And then I get annoyed. I'm like, how come? Why isn't this opening? So presenting that way when I'm showing them content. Yeah? So here's one that's active on the market, not selling. So let's take a look at it. It has how many bathrooms? Have them tell you how many bedrooms? What's the square footage? So for all intents and purposes, I think we would agree that this is a very similar footprint. Yes? Now let's take a look at the inside. When we go to the kitchen, what do? When you start doing this, you know how many people are going to grab the iPad from you? And start going like this, doing it themselves. By the way, is that what you want?
Yeah.
Yes. Because they're in the process of what? Self-discovering. Do you see how we're doing this completely wrong? You're coming in and being like, instead of letting them come to the decision themselves. Because for the most part, most people, they're cognitively like capable. Okay? The vast majority. And then we start to look at the features like the kitchen or whatever, we blow it up and say, okay, and how would you say that kitchen compares to your kitchen? Shut up. Yeah, I mean, I don't like their colors. Yeah, I get that. At the same time, I mean, they got the countertops, they got the, the cabinets and the appliances, right? So pretty similar, different. Some people might have different tastes, but in terms of like the quality of what's there, it's pretty similar. And then let's take a look at their bathrooms. Oh yeah, like it looks like they upgraded that bathroom. And I know your bathrooms are pristine and very well kept. They haven't been upgraded though. Do you have any idea how much it would cost to upgrade a bathroom in today's market? Let them tell you, because oftentimes they think it's way more. Yeah? They'll be like $25,000. Like, yeah, it's a little high. I would say somewhere between 15 to 20. So it's just something to consider. And we can see here they also have a pool. Yeah? Now let's take a look at their asking price. How much are they asking? Notice I'm just asking what? You guys are continuing to make statements. Yeah? And they're like, wow, $550 or $650. And do you see that little underneath it says DOM? Do you know what that stands for? Days on the market. So they've been on the market for 65 days and they haven't sold yet. Here's the key question. You ready? What do you think the buying public is telling them about their price and product? Notice, am I telling them? I am not. And what are they going to say? Yeah, because that's logical. Now, you might watch them internally wrestle. Yeah? I think it's very interesting whether somebody has like faith or not. There's a story, the woman caught in adultery. And he says, hey, whoever hasn't sinned, cast the first stone. Everybody walked away slowly. Why? Because we grapple internally. Yeah? You're going to watch them in front of you grapple internally. Because what are you presenting them with? The truth. And by the way, in the Bible, it says we would prefer to be lied to than be told the truth. When people were told the truth directly to their face, they picked up stones. So expect that, but let them go through that process. Do you see? So what do you think the buying public's telling them about their price and product? And they're like, well, I mean, I guess it's a little too high. I agree with you. The marketplace is showing us it's probably a little too high. And realistically, depending on what their motivation is, if they want to sell, what do you think they're going to have to do? Notice what you just did in your head. When I went like this, what did you register? Yeah. They're like, well, they're probably at the lower price. Yeah, more likely than not. Here's the next one. How many bedrooms? How many baths? What's the square footage? So for all intents and purposes, pretty similar. Would you agree? Let's take a look. Here's where they're going to start to zoom in, zoom out, whatever. How would you say this compares? Pretty similar. Okay, cool. How long have they been on the market? What do you think you repeat that process. What do you think the buying public's telling us? We do that 3 times, 3 actives. Yeah? All we want to do is paint a picture. That's it. You need 3 actives, 3 closed, 1 pending. Like that's it. Now we get to the closed sales. right? And then before we move on to the closed sales, remember that data we just reviewed, it's incredibly helpful because the neighbors have done us a favor. They've tested the market at prices and it's not working. We can learn from that information, yeah? Now, the second piece of data we'll shift into is what is actually sold and closed most recently, okay? And again, that's very helpful because it shows us what somebody's willing to pay. And as you know, I don't need to tell you, that's neurolinguistic programming, right? What something's worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. So let's take a look at that information. Here's 1265 Banana Street. It's actually across the street. Have you ever been inside that home? And they'll be like, well, no. It's like, okay, cool. So let's take a look. How many beds, how many baths? You go through the same process, right? And let's take a look at what was on the inside. Boom, boom, boom. How much were they asking? How much did it sell for? Shut up. And then what are you going to start to hear? What do you think? Particularly if it's not in alignment with their expectation is.
Wow, that's a little less than I thought.
Wow, really? Hey, or was there something wrong with it? Yeah? No. Hey, yes. Listen, guys, pay attention to what I'm saying to you. This is a process, once you learn it, it happens every single time. Because it's human nature.
Well, what if they start building up there? So like, oh, well, mine has a view of the lake. Mine won't sit that long. Mine, you know.
Yeah, which is natural. So, and I can show you how to handle that. But what are they doing right in front of you? Say it louder. The endowment effect. My stuff is stuff and your stuff is? That's what's happening right in front of you. Yeah? So you need to learn how to politely confront them about it. What we do, because nobody has taught us polite confrontation, we argue. By the way, how does that ever work out when you argue with somebody? Never. You walk out. I showed them. Dumb. I'd rather be rich, not right. So listen, I appreciate that. And I need you to know and understand we're on the same team. The more we help you sell it for, the more we get compensated to help you. So if the marketplace is showing us we can get more, I'll tell you. At the same time, let me ask you this. Who ultimately dictates value? Is it me, the real estate agent, or you? I'm sorry? The market. And the market, as you shared with me, which I agree with you, is what somebody's willing to pay. So the purpose in looking at this information is really to see what people are willing to pay. And then again, putting ourselves in the frame of the buyer, and if you were going to make an offer, where you'd feel comfortable. So we'll continue to look at this information, and we'll see what comes to the surface. Fair enough? How is that completely different than what most people do? Yeah. Well, no. According to my calculations, people don't care about the water, and people don't care about this, and blah, 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 blah. But you start to fight with people, and that doesn't work out well. Yes? Okay. You do the same thing with another, closed sale. You go through this process, and let's say the actives were at like 600, 575, and 583. None of them are selling. All been on the market 45 days or more. Then you look at the closed sales, they're at 635, 630, and 620. Or five, what is that? Yeah, right? So then you ask the question. All right, so having seen this information, seen what's active on the market, not selling, seen what's sold and closed most recently, realistically, if you were a buyer, not a seller, and you were going to buy this home all over again, where do you think you'd feel comfortable making an offer that you believe would be reflective of fair market value? And then you do something that's very difficult for agents to do. You shut up and let them talk. Because when does the processing happen? When they're quiet or when they're speaking? You interrupt it. Because of insecurity, we fill the air with nonsense. Really uncomfortable with silence. But then you're quiet. Now, when you present them with this, they have 3 options. What are the 3 options that they will come back with you at? Something reasonable. Yeah, somewhere around like 520, 530 seems to be reasonable. And then to which you say, I agree with you. Marketplace is showing us somewhere around there. Now it comes down to strategy, like how we get there, because price is a strategy and attempt to get the most. We'll go over the strategies that you have because I want you to feel comfortable with the one we end up choosing. Whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. Yes? So am I making them wrong for wanting to start higher? No. And then I walk them through what that looks like. Yeah? So the first option is that we could start higher than 520, maybe like 550 or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that strategy, by the way. There are some drawbacks, though, and I just want you to be clear on what those are. So the first is that strategy usually takes longer. Now, I know you were kind enough to share with me in preparation for connecting that you want to be out to Texas in the next 120 days. So what that means, and here's where theater comes in. You ready? Watch this. So what that means, let me think about this. What are we in, like May, June, July, September, October? Wow, that would mean we would have to be under contract in the next 60 days because it usually takes 45 to 60 days to close. Did you know that? And they'll be like, yeah. Tell me this, what would happen, Shelly, on the outside chance if we were still sitting here 120 days from now and it wasn't sold? What would that mean for you and your family? Oh, that wouldn't be great. I'd have to move by myself. My wife would have to stay back. Okay. So that's something to consider with regards to this strategy. And it sounds like, being that time is of the essence for you and it's really important, that strategy may not serve you best. The second strategy we have at our disposal is we position it very competitively. By that, what I mean is very close to what's sold and closed most recently, right? That 525-ish, 530 number, or maybe even a hair below. The logic behind that strategy is we can get a lot of people interested very quickly, force them to compete. And what ends up coming to the surface is the most that somebody's willing to pay. And as we just went over, and I agree with you, what somebody's willing to pay is what something's worth. Yes? You also end up with the best terms and conditions. Can I explain to you what I mean? Well, let's say we have 3 offers on the table. 2 of them are FHA financing and 1 of them is cash. Which one do you think we're going to go with? Why?
Most likely going to close.
Most likely going to close. Does that make sense? Would you like to be in a position where you had options and choices? Okay, so with that being said, based on what you value most, based on the time frame you'd like to make this happen, in light of the information we just reviewed, which one of those 2 strategies do you think would serve you and your family best? And then you shut up. And what are they going to say? What are the options and choices that they have? They're either going to say, yeah, that makes sense. Probably, position it competitively. Okay, I'm in agreement with you based on what you've shared. So do you have any other questions or concerns for me before you go to the appropriate paperwork? Boom. Now we're into a closing sequence because they're going to start to object, what's your commission, time, whatever, right? Or they're going to say, can we start a little bit higher? I see what you're saying. Yeah, makes sense. But do you really think it's like a really big disadvantage if we start higher? Now, by the way, if you do this right, they're going to ask you your opinion, which is the only time you should give it.
I would say the DOM is going to be higher. You're going to lose your leverage because people are going to know that you're.
Yeah, but here's what I would propose. So that's right. How could you ask me a question to get me to tell you that?
What do you think?
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say you were buying a home in today's marketplace and you walked into it and you were like, this is the one. And your significant other was like, this is the one. And you ask me like, hey, is there any interest in this property? It's only been on the market 4 days. I call the listing agent. They tell me they've had 15 showings and there's 2 offers on the table. What's the probability you would make a full price offer on that property? Very high. Now let's imagine same scenario. We walk in the property. I call the listing agent. It's been on the market 65 days, no offers. What's the probability you make a full price offer on that property? Low. So just by you saying that demonstrates that you're beginning to realize that price is a strategy in an attempt to get the most. And how we position the property will dictate the outcomes that we get. Does that make sense to you? Do you see how that's way more skilled than me telling you no? Do you see? I need you to get into the mental map of asking questions. So the moment you start to tell me, notice what I did with him. How can you ask a question to get me to tell you? Because you will never argue with who? Yourself. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about this? Can you see how if you applied this, you'd be able to get them to position the property better price-wise up front? Good. Okay. Now, this next one is interesting, and Shelly brought it up. So in a marketplace, let's say 2021 to 2023, did you have to get good at negotiating? Anybody who tries to think so is hilarious and hallucinating. I had people dropping off cakes and pies to my office in an attempt to get me to accept their offer or to encourage, which by the way, in any other industry, if I gave you something to try to get my way, it's called a bribe, which is wild. So people try to bribe me to be like, hey, we'll give you the buy side, like all this stuff. It does not cater to the better angels of our nature. Okay. But there's no skill involved when everybody's removing financing contingencies, appraisal contingencies, right? Hey, we're going to pay X amount over the appraised value. We're going to give you, this amount. Like, guys, There's no skill. And you guys wanted to take all the credit, yes? I got my sellers $35,000 above the asking price. No, you didn't. The market did. You had nothing to do with it. But then when it goes in the opposite direction, what do? Oh, it's not my fault. That's immature, yes? The truth is in both instances, you have nothing to do with it. You're just a relayer of what's happening in the marketplace, yes? So presenting offers that come in less than the asking price. You have a situation now that popped up, yes? And she shared, even though she's a seasoned agent, you've been in the real estate business for how long? 10 years, bro. Here's what's really true, though. For her entire 10-year career, it's been a vibrant, dynamic, good market. So this skill, she hasn't had to get really, really good at it. Does that make sense? But now it's presenting itself because you had an offer that came in meaningfully less than the ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's at 230. Asking is listed right now at 273.
Right.
It's a co-op.
Yeah, which makes sense because that whole marketplace is experiencing a wild down. Like, I think in the next 12 to 18 months, 24 months, condos, co-ops will go down in value 20, 30% because the inventories rose dramatically because of that rule that changed where you have to have full reserves. So all of their dues doubled, almost, some tripled. They have huge, massive special assessments. So everybody's dumping units on the market. Inventory's gone up dramatically. So that environment is very similar to the environment that I was selling real estate in 2008. So if you're going in there thinking, oh yeah, like you want to start here? Bro, nope. You got to get very good at what I just did. Yeah. So that offer comes in meaningfully less. And I love her honesty and her authenticity. She was like, initially she's like, no, I don't want to deal with that. Keep that away from me. I don't want to look at that. Yeah. Because it's an uncomfortable conversation. But if you don't mind me asking, tell me a little bit about their motivation. What's their motivation?
She moved.
She moved.
It was her personal residence. And she moved.
Got it. And how much is it costing her per month to carry?
Probably about
$600 a month. But that's with just maintenance, or is it also taxes?
Her maintenance is only $400.
But what's the taxes?
Not a lot yet.
Now that it's not her primary, what are they going to be?
Until it will go up. I don't know exactly. I need to figure
It
that out.
will double.
Yeah.
Easy. If not triple.
Yeah.
So it's going to cost her $1,000 a month. Is it an option for her? I know it's not an option to rent because you can't rent in co-ops. Is it?
She can rent.
Okay. Now, if she rented, is she prepared to be has she ever been a long distance landlord before?
No.
Is she prepared to be a long distance landlord for an extended period of time?
She says she is.
Okay, cool. And so what would be the benefit to her personally if she sold? How would her life improve in some way?
Ease of not having to worry about it.
I understand.
Regularly.
And based on what she could rent it for and based on what she owes and all that other stuff and with money going up and everything, would it cash flow for her? How much?
Probably about 1,000.
Okay. And the only reason that would make sense is that if she waited, she'd get more money. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll walk you through how to have this conversation with her.
How long is she willing to wait?
Wait, what? Yeah, right. Not only that, but once you turn it into a rental, you have to pay capital gains tax. So she'd have to sell it for, she'd have to sell it for 20% more than what it's currently worth in order just to break even on the taxes. Do you follow? Okay. So let's say we get this offer comes in. It's $40,000 below. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, so listen, Mr. Mrs. Seller, got some exciting news for you. We got a bona fide, qualified, written cash offer on the property. It's got to be cash because they don't, there's like Mackinac Bank, but like it very rarely works out. And they're not doing that anymore because of what's going on in the condo market and co-op market in Florida. So we have a bona fide, qualified, written cash offer on the property. So I'd like to go over it with you so you can decide how you wish to proceed. Whatever you decide, I'm going to support you 100%. So right out of the gate, am I attached to this outcome? Whatever you want. Most of you guys are super attached to the outcome, yes? And it comes out in your language, it comes out in your approach. And if somebody's super attached to an outcome, you know, and you can tell they're super attached to the outcome, how does that make you feel internally?
Responsible for the,
No. So let's say somebody wants something from you,
right,
and you can feel it from them,
yeah.
and they're really attached to the outcome. Is you're like, yay, or is it repulsive?
No, it's yay.
It's yay?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say somebody came to you and was like, oh, please, let's hang out. Please.
No.
Ah, you see? Hey, that was so awesome. Her face immediately changed. She was like, oh, no, papi. No. That is instantaneously get away from me. Yes? So when we're presenting offers that way, Instantaneously, they feel your commission breath. Yes? They can smell it. Like, damn, bro, you need a Tic Tac. You got some crazy commission breath going on right now, right? So, hey, I got some exciting news for you. As of right now, we have a written, bona fide, qualified cash offer on the table. I'd like to review it with you so that way you can decide how you wish to proceed. Whatever you decide, I'm going to support you 100%. Fair enough? Cool, Shelly. What is it? How much is it? Right away. I'm not going to tell them how much it is right away. We're going to go into the meat and potatoes of the offer. So you say, yep, I'm going to share that with you. And before I do, I'd like to go over like the actual kind of high points of the contract. One of them obviously is the price. We also want to make sure that if, and I'm clear that that is an if, we do decide to take it off the market, there's a good chance that it will actually close. So the first thing that's really important, particularly with co-ops, is that they show us proof of funds because you can't get financing. They did send us the proof of funds. They have ample funds to be able to proceed. Okay. Second thing is they're putting a $25,000 deposit. The reason why that's super strong is it demonstrates financial strength, right? And commitment that they're going to proceed. Okay. And that won't be the reason why they don't. They put an inspection period of 10 days. The default in the contract is 15. So we're glad that it's shorter because they have 10 days to look at the property. If they see something come up, they can ask us for something. If we don't come to a meeting of the minds, they can get out of the agreement. We give them their deposit back. But after that 10 days, they can't use that as a way to get out. Does that make sense? They also gave themselves, X amount of time, let's say 25 days or 21 days to get co-op approval, which is critical, right? Because if they don't get approved, they can't proceed. And the default in the contract is 30 days. So we're glad that it's shorter. Okay, they have a closing date of 35 days from now, which I know works for you because you've already moved. It's not an issue. And there's nothing else in the additional terms and conditions. They're not asking us for any special things. Oh, by the way, as well, they're not asking for you to take over the special assessment, whatever it is, because I know some of them have massive special assessments, right? They're saying that they will take that over, right, at closing, which is huge, okay? So all in all, it's written on an as-is contract, simple, straightforward, cash offer, $25,000 down, close in 35 days. And they ultimately made us an offer of, how much was it? $230,000. Now, whenever we have offers come in, I want you to be clear, we have 3 options at our disposal. And I want to review them with you so you can decide how you wish to proceed. Whatever you decide is perfectly okay. The first option is we could accept this offer the way that it's written. I am not suggesting that we do that. Why am I saying that? Because I want to align myself with them. Because what are they thinking? Ain't no way, yeah? How dare they? I'm offended. Which is dumb. If somebody offered you money for your socks, would you get offended? It's stupid. It's emotional, yeah? I'm not suggesting that we do that necessarily. I know some homeowners, depending on dynamics, they do decide to do that. In this instance, I know you don't have to sell, so I'm not convinced that that's the best option for you. The second option is we just flat out say no. We send them away, tell them to pound sand, and we look for a new buyer. Now, if you decide to do that, I need you to know 2 things that I do not know with a high degree of certainty. The first one is how long it would take to get another offer, because it took us 110 days to get one. Could take 110 more. I don't know. The second thing I don't know with a high degree of probability is if and when we did receive another offer, if it would be any better. I don't know that either. And then the third option is that we could counter. My suggestion always is if you do decide to counter, we make it a very reasonable one that they would strongly consider, if not accept. Reason being is that the inventory for co-ops, not only in the building, but also just in general, has gone up dramatically over the last 12 to 18 months. They have a lot of options to choose from. I wouldn't want to see them go someplace else instead of buying your home. Does that make sense? So based on what you're looking to accomplish and why and the time frame you'd like to make this happen in, what do you think we should do? Then you shut up, which is very difficult for agents to do. Because we got a 75 on a test, we have $1,000 and we're not a felon. And apparently we're all economics like geniuses. Meanwhile, I know all your guys' finances. There's no reason you should be giving people economic advice. Yes? Yes. So now you're quiet. Now she's going to have 2. She's clearly going to be like, I don't want to accept it. Which one is she probably going to lean towards? Okay, let's say she leans towards the counter. And then she's like, well, she'll either do one of 2 things. She'll either say, what do you think? Which is great. Or she'll say, how much are you asking? How much is it asking?
273.
273. She's like, all right, I'll counter at 270. Yes? How do I know this? Because I sold 2,000 homes. And they do the same thing every single day. Because it's human. Learn human nature. Stop fighting it. Stop resisting it. Let's say she says, yeah, we can come back at 270. Sure, that's an option. I want to be clear. You're the boss. My job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. What am I doing again? What do most of you guys do? That's ridiculous. Yeah. Why would you ever in a million? Like you fight with them. That's dumb. Would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? Okay. Not everybody said rich. That's a problem. So, yeah, it's an option. You know, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you 100%. Can I share with you what would concern me for you and ultimately, you know, how much you end up getting for this property if you do decide to sell it, if you chose that approach? Sure. Well, I'm not sure you're aware, the marketplace for condos and co-ops has changed radically over the last 12 to 18 months. And the primary reason is, do you remember, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, there was that tragedy where that building fell down in Miami and everybody died? Well, as a result, they changed a law. And that law now states that every single co-op and condo has to have full reserves. Let me ask you a question. Have your dues gone up dramatically in the last 12 to 18 months? Okay. Have you had a special assessment in the last 12 to 18 months? Okay. Now, what I'm aware of, though, is a lot of the other condos and co-ops have. And as a result, most of the people who own condos and co-ops, most of those people are on fixed incomes. So when the dues go up double, triple, and people have massive special assessments, what do you think that does to the amount of properties that are on the market? It increases. Do you know how much it's increased? We went from 3,000 condos on the market to 12,000. So let me ask you a question. When supply goes up and demand goes down, what usually happens to prices? Exactly. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. At the same time, it's very clear to me that inventory is exploding and demand is either staying the same or softening. So my concern is instead of whatever we come to an agreement today in terms of a counter, 12 to 18 months from now, it could be 20% less. My intention in saying that is not to engender fear. It's just an accurate assessment of reality. Tell me you can rent it.
Yeah, just rent it.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. If you decide to rent, I'll support you 100%. We'll be able to help you facilitate, you know, finding a good tenant. At the same time, there's some things for you to just really be aware of and to consider, okay? So the first is once you turn this into a rental and you own it for it's no longer a primary residence for 2 out of 5 years. Do you know what happens as a result? You have to pay capital gains tax on any proceeds. Are you aware of what the current capital gains tax rate is? 20%. So the only reason it would make sense to wait is if you waited, you'd be able to get more money. Would you agree? Okay. So what that would mean is that we would have to be able to sell this property for 20% more than we can get today just to break even on the taxes. Let me ask you a question. With inventory going from 3,000 to 12,000, does that seem like a realistic expectation? I agree. So the question for you is you have 2 options at your disposal, whatever you decide is okay. One is we make a counter that's very small, I think you would agree. And with a high degree of probability, these buyers go someplace else. You'll probably end up renting it and holding this for an extended period of time and dealing with the marketplace. Because let me ask you a question. Do you see insurance going down in Florida anytime soon? No. That'll just continue to keep going up and up and up, right, in terms of cost and expense. And with everything that's going on in the marketplace, you'll just cross our fingers, hope and wish and pray that something changes. Or we can deal with this, make a reasonable counter that they will strongly consider, if not accept, extract the money so that way you can put it to use and not have to worry about the dynamics of the condo market and co-op market in South Florida. Either one's okay. Based on what you're looking to accomplish, why? What do you think we should do? Then she'll probably say, well, what do you think is a reasonable counter? Yes? Hopefully. So when you say, when they ask you, what do you think is a reasonable counter? See, most of you guys, how many of you guys have been given unsolicited advice before? Yeah, how much do you listen to that? Never. When you have children, everybody gives you advice, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, your kids are like wild. Why are you giving me advice? Yeah? But if you ask for advice, how closely are you listening? Very. Yeah? So if you do this right and you remain unattached to the outcome, they will ask you for advice. What do you think I should do? What do you think would be a reasonable counter? Well, I appreciate you asking. And I need you to know that my intention is to protect the value of your property, help you get every penny possible. And I take that responsibility very seriously. Based on all that data that we just went over and what we're seeing happening in the marketplace, my sincere concern is that over the next 12 to 18 months, prices will come down precipitously, like dramatically. So I think the most reasonable counter would be to split the difference. They come up a little bit, we get you some more money, they feel like they're getting a little bit of value, we extract the capital, then we get you, we get you out of the situation in the next 35, 40 days, you're done and complete, you can reinvest that capital in something that, doesn't have these dynamics that we're seeing here in Southeast Florida in the condo market and the co-op market. Now, at that counter, if we were to do that, if creates possibility, yes? So if we were to do that, you would net X amount from the sale. Would that allow you to make this sale happen? Never is that enough, because is it ever enough? Never. Would that allow you to make the sale happen? I guess so. Okay, great. So do I have permission to go ahead and relay that counter? Yeah, but I'm not going to go a penny below. That's great. Because you know what? I'd much rather get you offers and we can flat out say no, or I can negotiate on your behalf and pull them up to where we want them to be, versus being in a situation where we're not getting any. Because you know what I know is true? How many co-ops are for sale in the building?
It's only 4.
Oh, it's a 2 super tiny building. How many co-ops are for sale in that geographic area?
2.
In co-ops in completely like in Broward.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I would know that number because it's probably huge.
Okay.
And I would also know how many have sold in the last 30 days. That's probably very small. Yeah? So what I know to be true is there's, 150 other co-op homeowners that wish that they could be, are praying to be in the situation that we are, which is with an offer on the table. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I'll go back to them. I'll give them all the reasons why I feel that makes sense. And hopefully my next phone call to you is letting you know that they've accepted the offer and we can proceed. Does that sound good? Is this not a skill that you're going to need in an environment? Have you had to use this skill at all in the last 2 years? A lot of you guys think you know how to sell real estate. You don't. Say it louder. That's why I'm here. She's been doing this for 10 years. Yeah? Is this making sense, everybody? Does anybody have any questions about that? Questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations?
Situational.
It is situational. But this is why role play and practice is so important. How many guys role play every day? Every day, every day, every day? Good. The people that are connected with us. Everybody else is independently wealthy. Yeah? So my intention today was really to equip you. I can leave it with some Q&A, but my intention today was really to equip you with the skills that you need. Because when the United States credit rating gets downgraded for the first time in 100 years, mortgage rates are going to stay higher for longer. The question is my business set up for that? Are my lead sources set up for that? Are my skills set up for that? Here's the wonderful, great part. If you look at any kind of sample set, you want to see how things really are, look at nature, right? And if you look at any sample set, it's a law that the square root of the amount that you're looking at will do the 50% of all the production. So in other words, if you have like 9 tomato plants, 3 of them will make 50% of all the tomatoes. The other 6 will share in the other 50%. Yeah? If you have 100 agents in the office, 10 of them will do 50% of all the commissions. The other 90 will share in the rest. Yeah? So the really cool part about that is that mediocrity scales. That's why in our industry, the average agent, you know how many homes the average agent sells? 5. 5 or less. 67% of all real estate agents in the country did 5 deals or less in 2024. The average real estate agent makes $72,000. A manager at Taco Bell in California makes 70. But I got my little key. So the cool part is that mediocrity scales, and we get to make a decision. Do I want to be a part of the mediocre many or the fantastic few? Because, well, here's the question. All of you will say that and nod. What's required?
Effort.
Here's what's interesting. All of you guys know this. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. The problem is not that you don't know, it's doing what you know. But we are guys, I am on calls with people crying in tears because they went from doing 15 deals to doing 3. They went from being the top producer to struggling because a great market masked their incompetency. They actually weren't good at what they did. So if you want to be a part of the fantastic few, that's why we've created the ecosystem that we've created. That's why we have role play groups where you can role play every single day, 5 days a week. That's where we have group coaching calls. Let me ask you a question. If you spend an hour with me once a week, do you think that would have an impact positively on your industry, on your business? 100%, without question. Yes? I have online courses in 23 countries in 8 languages teaching you what to say and how to say it. We do events like these and others. So whether you guys want to partner with us or I give $1 million worth of game for free on YouTube. The best way to show somebody you can help them is to help them for free. Yes? Ask yourself a question. Wherever you are right now, are you in an environment with people that are equipping you for this market? Or are they telling you, you can do it? Are they teaching you how to use the MLS system? Are they showing you how to do open houses? Yes? So whether you decide to partner with us or you don't, get involved in the ecosystem that we have. I have a free school community that gives you scripts, gives you role play, right? Gives you a group call, gives you office hours with me for 30 minutes. You can ask me whatever you want once a week. Because I sincerely, like from my heart to yours, I do not want to get that phone call from anybody that's in this room. And the cool part about being the fantastic few, bro, even though transaction volume's gone down from 6.5 million to 4 million, do you know what's bigger? The commission pool. Because prices are higher. Do you know the commission pool is $13 billion more than it was in 2020? There's more money to be made. So if you apply what we're talking about, you get into the right ecosystem, the right community, guys, you can make way more money. Yes? An example of that would be Heath, who joined our community. He was a full-time cop, part-time agent. Do you know he did 31 transactions in the last 12 months? Made over $200,000 in a difficult market. Why? Because proximity is power. So if I can help you or anybody that's in our ecosystem or organization can help you, let me know. My name is Aaron Novello. I look forward to being your guide. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to come out. Appreciate it. Yeah, my pleasure. And I'm willing to hang out if you have any questions or anything I can help you with or assist you with.
I have one quick
announcement.
So, you didn't do the whole thing.
No, I didn't. I just did what I wanted
I will
to do.
email all of you these slides so you guys have it. But I just want to let you know that we are having a leadership summit in July. So every 6 months we have one really huge event. In the new year, we have the Do More Deals Summit, and in the summer, we have our Leadership Summit. So if you want to create something huge, whether that be an organization or a business, you want to lead people, this is the room to be in.
Mm-hmm.
We are renting out a resort in Sedona, and we are hunkering down, just having meetings, going on excursions, spa days, hanging out, masterminding every day. And if you are interested in that, there's a QR code.
How many slots are left? Only 5, right?
I think there's 5 slots.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a really small group. The Do More Deals Summit, we have hundreds of people fly in. This is a really, really small, tight-knit, intimate event.
Yeah, and I will be teaching leadership, media, right? Attraction, like all things time freedom and location freedom. So yeah, we'd love for you to attend.
Can I make an announcement?
Yeah, you can,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
I am done.
On June 2nd, I'm having a prospecting boot camp in Miami. That's going to be 4 or 5 hours where we're going to be covering basically scripts and everything that you have to do to generate a lot of contacts in Monday. June 13th, another prospecting boot camp at Miami Association of Realtors, and that's going to be a full day event. And that event is actually free. So they're hosting, it's going to be a great.
I highly recommend it for anybody who's in that geographic area. I've had the good fortune of coaching Chris for a long time. He's one of the top agents in Miami.
What was the second date you said?
June 13th.
Like, regularly doing 60, 70 residential real estate transactions a year. So you have somebody who's a master at prospecting in the room with you, listening to what you're saying, to tell you what to say and how to say it, so you can acquire these skill sets. So if you are at all possible, like move everything you're doing and get in the room with him, because it'll be beneficial for you.
The only other prospect boot camp that I know of is on the West Coast in Vegas, so to have
About?
something locally.
Questions.
I'm doing
Yeah.
also for myself because I want to be able to get a group of people
Yeah,
locally
yeah.
that don't have to travel and have a benefit of it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, bro.
Overall,
Yeah.
let's assume single family home in Broward County overall.